guys, Scott here from Outlaw Garage. Today is Outlaw Tuesday, so let's hit the road and see what we find. So, we are broken down with the 356. I think the linkage has come off more towards the middle of the car. Alex has shot off to get some parts so we can try and fix it. So we're in the 356 now, broken down by the side of the road. As you can see, the shifter there, we think it's behind here. So we're going to pop that open and take a look at her. Hopefully we'll be back on the road soon. Thank goodness we're with Alex, because then he can help us out a bit. What a pain in the ass. They knock us down. We're coming back, getting off the ground. Stand up, let them feel the heat when we rise up. Stand up, come on, stand up. They can see the gold when we light up. We're ripping the door wide open. It's our time to make the moment. Stand up, we get the ground shaking when we stand up. So here we are, we've pulled back up at the man cave. We've left our 356 by the side of the road. He's got a broken rod on the shifter, so we'll come back and fix that and pick that up a little bit later, bless her. But we're here with the modified Roadster.
Our Outlaw.
Definitely an Outlaw. Look at this thing. So 1960s, look at that. The work that's been done is unbelievable. And before anybody kind of asks, it is all steel as well, which is a massive effort. So we'll take a closer look and go through some of the details. Here we go for the rear, I guess, cover, canopy.
Yeah, so we put if you want to call it a tonneau or a rear over the back, which if you look at, say, some of the things that Rod Emery's done, I actually asked Rod to see if you'd build one for me, and he said, unless you ship the car here, no. So that wasn't really an option. So we actually then got Jason at Chequered Flag Restorations, who did the bodywork on this car. He actually then created this cowl, and you can actually see underneath, you can see just all the handwork and the beating of the metal that you can see that he's gone to try and get that shape.
Yeah, we can pick that up there.
And then you've said, okay, well then if it's on gas struts, it's nice because then you can actually use this space as a storage area, which is really lovely.
It moves really smoothly as well.
It does, yeah. So, and then this is actually a 911 lock post. If anyone has seen a front lock post or a rear lock post on a 911, early 911, then that's from that. And then essentially that allows you to, number one, have a storage area, but two, if you do remove the tonneau cover, you can actually release it back in there. So it's actually clipped in behind the cowl here, which means it's nice and secure. So yeah, it's,
and there's plenty of space in the back there. Like if you're going away for a weekend, a couple of sports bags, bang them in there.
Yeah, exactly,
and you're
right.
Away.
Look, it's not a car we've actually taken on a trip, so to speak, but it gives you that functionality of that space. So if you did take it, you can actually throw something in there. The other thing is to keep stuff dry, because you haven't got a hood. So if you want to keep stuff dry, you can actually throw it back in there.
And the weather changes so frequently.
It is Melbourne. It is Melbourne. It's dry at the moment, but just wait a few minutes and it might change.
Wow. So here we go with the rear. So what's the story behind the modifications on here?
Well, as you can, the whole design process or thought behind this is you can see that basically all the holes have been filled in the whole car. So the if you look at a 356, you'd normally have your door handles here. They've all been put
and it's easy to miss those kind of things, but it is smooth.
It is, and I guess if you look down the side profile of the car, everything else has been rounded. So, you know, a 356 is quite a rounded shape. It's but they say it's quite a female type form shape of a vehicle. So the same thing when you go to the rear. All the rear holes, so bumper holes, the side bumper holes, all have been filled in. And then when you come to the rear,
you kind of forget it, don't you?
You do. And then originally when we first built the car, Dad first built the car, we actually had some LED indicators and brake lights in behind here, which was okay, but it actually wasn't really in keeping in the right sort of framing for the car. So we put some V-highs over the top, and actually it works kind of well now with the engine that's in the car now, because it did have a 356 engine and that was fine. Now it's got a slightly different motor in there, and as a result that actually runs quite warm. So any extra airflow to try and get rid of heat and dispel some of that heat from the exhaust system is actually beneficial. So it's still nice and clean. We did originally have 3 sets of louvers in here, and only just recently we put the original 356 grille back in to try and allow a bit more airflow coming through the engine. So again,
you were talking about that earlier, about the fan and how much air it sucks in, and
so Peter actually did the calculation and worked out how much air was coming through these holes, with this also being in the middle, and then actually worked out that there wasn't enough air being able to be pulled into the engine bay to feed both the fan for the cooling, but also then for the carburetors to actually bring enough air in to try and get the mixtures right.
When he said that,
he actually did work it out.
I was like, when he goes, I calculated that, I was like,
it was like a scene out of a movie where they've got all these sort of different things.
Yeah, where do you start calculating that?
Yeah, so these were there as well, and then the great thing was when we actually did fill it in, the ability to unpick this around here was actually still there. So it was actually quite easy for Peter to unpick that and then put it back in there without having to repaint the deck lids, which is nice.
Yeah, because those, we'll open it up in a minute and have a look, but the Bergman fans do suck some air. And because you've got a decent sized motor in there, it does need a...
It does, absolutely. But you can kind of see the whole roundness of the car, and the close, clean lines of the car is actually one of the really nice different things about it, because it's actually, it's quite beautiful in its form, because of all those things that normally would hang off the car have actually disappeared, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that does look very good. So engine-wise, we've got a Bernie Bergman, little signature.
As signed by Bernie himself.
As signed. 2.4?
2.4 litre. So yeah, these were, it originally, as I said, it had a 356 motor in it. And then Dad said, well, why don't we go, and he'd been researching on the internet, as he does, found what Bernie was doing with the Volkswagen platform. I think they're off a Type 1 from memory.
Yep.
With an upright fan and 2.4 litre, putting out 200 and something horsepower. So I said, well, that sounds like a good thing for the Outlaw. So it took a while to get the motor. Bernie had issues with, I think, lifters that he was having issues with, and they run, feels like huge compression in them. And anyway, the engine turns up and we eventually put it in the car. So that's really probably the only, other than sort of non-Porsche.
Standard 356 gearbox?
Yeah, so it's got a 741 356 transmission, so same transmission it would have had in a B or a C model, which is a nice gearbox. But the engine itself, is a very torquey. The result of not only just having the horsepower, but it's actually got torque from basically from the get-go. So still sounds like a 356 motor, which is nice. So at least it's still got that that right sound. It's got a very intricate and extensive exhaust system, which
I did see that when we were following.
And we've only just raised the car recently with a rear compensator spring because of what's going on under there.
We can see a little bit.
Yeah, it was actually pretty low when you're going over a few humps. It's not as low as your car, mate, but it just raises it a little bit just to give it more clearance. So yeah,
I think they're a great addition to the cars.
Yeah, look, we've got another 356 over there, which is Dad's race car, which has got a early 911 motor in it. So it's got a 2.67 litre twin plug 911 motor in it. Puts out probably similar sort of horsepower, I guess. It revs a little bit higher, being a 911 motor, but obviously a lot heavier too. So that's the kind of nice thing about this, is it's a little bit lighter, albeit that you've got those thermo fans in there as well to try and manage the oil cooling.
Cheaper to repair as well.
Hopefully we don't have to repair it, so I don't know. I won't. We'll see.
So in the interior, I do like the oatmeal on the back. That's, you know, finished well.
Yeah, so that's the original square weave, what they call the square weave 356 interior. Speedster seats, and then again, as you can kind of see, we normally have, say, the rubbers, and on the end, you know, obviously we had to remove all the window regulators, so all those got as part of the craftsmanship that Jason did on the car, is then made some steel door trims as well.
Yeah.
So you've still actually got some pockets in here, so you're actually using the well.
That's a nice touch.
So which is just gives you a bit of extra space, and then. Critically across the dash, a 356 would normally have the dash pad or the crash pad on the top, and we've left that off. It's running all standard 356 gauges, with the exception that we've had the faces painted silver, which is just sort of makes it again a little bit unique to the car. And then this sort of vinyl fabric that we've got along the sides is something we've used in one of the race cars as well. It's just quite hard wearing, and it's quite easy to clean. It's a little bit dirty at the moment. Needs a good detail.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, look, it's nice and simplistic, but it's practical as well with the tonneau, which works really well as adding to that. It's it's a nice place to be.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it all just fits together, and you know, when you close those doors, like it's just. Brand new, isn't it? Like, that's amazing. So the interior is pretty stock for a 356?
Yeah, and pretty much the same under here with the exception of the centre fill. So normally you'd have your filler on a B model would be underneath here, so you'd actually have to lift the bonnet anyway. So yeah, fabricated up the centre fill. Underneath is all pretty much the same. This car was originally left-hand drive, so that's why you can see the two, so it was a converted car. But under here, all pretty standard, with the exception, as I said, the centre fill and the cut through the bonnet. So.
And you said something interesting about the VIN.
Yeah, so the VIN number on this is actually, for those that know 356s, it's generally a 5-digit number, and this is a 4-digit number. And so when we first saw the car, I was like, that's a bit strange. Anyway, bit of research with Porsche, and I found out that actually this had a replacement chassis from the factory in about 1962 or 3. So the original owner obviously had either a pretty bad accident or bad enough that they couldn't repair it. And back in the day, you could actually get a replacement chassis from, or replacement body from the factory. And so this is actually one of a few. I think they only produced about 10 or 12, I think the number was. I got some from research, sort of rings a bit of a memory. So yeah, so this had a replacement shell, and as a result, yeah, it
carries a unique number.
Carries a unique number for that very reason. So which is interesting. So
yeah, a bit of history with the car. And then of course, the front has additional styling on it as well.
Yeah, so if you ever look up an RS60 or an RS61 718 that were racing in period sort of throughout the late 50s, early 60s, they had these sort of integrated fog lights in them. So they were a little bit bigger in those cars, but the idea was to maybe, because you had that rounded front, the front of this then started to look like an RSK. So maybe you actually put some fog lights in there just as some additional light. So yeah, it took an inordinate amount of time for Jason, who did the body on this, to try and get the look right.
Yeah, I'd imagine so, because again, you said it's all steel, isn't it?
Yeah, so for him, I think that might have caused a few grey hairs, I think, for him. But yeah, they actually, it looks nice the way that they're integrated. It sort of gives a slightly different front profile to the car, which is kind of nice. But again, all reversible if you decided to, by removing all the holes in the grills. If you look at a 356, you've generally got the horn grills, then you've got the indicator lights in there as well. So the indicators are now actually the bulbs off the Parkers, so that's where they're located. So
yeah, and all the shaping for the bumpers has gone again, like the rear.
Yeah, so all that stuff has disappeared. So one, there's a fair bit of weight in that, but also it really just highlights the natural body line of the front of a 356 if you actually got rid of all those things and you filled it in. So it just showed how far the 356 really was ahead of its time in the way it was shaped and the proportions of it as well. So
here we are. 356 is on the back of the trailer. She's got a broken shift rod, so figure out what's going on there. Going to take it to a guy called Peter, who we will catch up with in another video at some point. He's got a load of 356s and classic cars, so it's heading off to him, and we might get our oil fixed at the same time. But to all the guys in Dubai, it isn't just the bread van that breaks down. So there we go, we've had a full morning. We've broken down in the 356, we'll hope to get that fixed very soon. And we've seen a very special Roadster. So that's been an absolutely fantastic kind of day and recovery from the 356. We'll catch you all soon with a new video. Please like, subscribe, and we'll see you later, guys. Bye.